In this video, we look at some of the basics for learning how to use a Hegner scroll saw. This is our Hegner scroll saw. Some of the things, and we just go over a few things before we get started. Remember, as always, drop something on the floor. Dust mask, okay, using the machine creates a lot of dust, so make sure you've got your dust mask on. Ear defenders, protect that hearing, and most important with this one, the goggles. Make sure you've got those goggles on because the blades that we've just got over here, the blades can snap. And if you do have a blade snap, you need to be protecting your eyes because you can get one that goes in your eye and that's not much fun. This one here, that's a little spanner then type thing for adjusting your, well, for changing your blades over. That's the actual blade then and the clamp. That fits into the machine just like so. We'll go back over all of this. That just fits in like so. There's a little adjuster at the back there for adjusting the tension, and then there's this one at the front as well, that adjusts the tension. This one here, that is the blower, so that actually blows the dust away. So if you're working to a line, you can see that line clearly. And another little bit for starting off, you've got this attachment that you can buy for the Hegner scroll saw. That will actually clamp the wood down, because one thing that can happen, the teeth can get caught on the wood and it causes the wood to sort of bounce around. That will hold it down for you and reduce that the chances of that happening. I don't personally use it, I'm not too keen on it, but for instance my brother Matt, he does a lot of scroll sawing, he uses it a lot, he finds that quite useful. So it depends on the person, try it, you may like it, you may not. So those are some of the things to think about before you start off. One final thing that's very important is to have it on a really good surface. Hegner, they do sell a stand for the machine. Good bit of kit, worth investing in. You can sort of bolt it to the floor because the vibration with this, if you've got vibration on it, it's basically, it won't work to the best of its ability. We've got ours on like a wooden bench and we store things in underneath it, but it's bolted to the floor. There is a test they always used to say with it is to put a coin, a 20p piece, something like that, put that on its sides, put that sort of standing up. If it falls over, there's too much vibration. So make sure that you haven't got that vibration because it will affect the performance of the scroll saw. The first part then to get us started with using the scroll saw is to change the blades. So this one here, this is a key. Again, you'll find this on the Hegner website. We put that link in the description. So that key there, that's a good bit of kit for, you know, it just releases it quickly, just like so. This is our new blade. You've got there's a little, just a little bit of information on that one, just on the inside there, to make sure you get the blading correctly. If you use these ones, I hope you're able to see that on the camera there clearly, the ones where the blades are going in two directions. It's the 6 blades where the teeth are going in the opposite direction. Those are the ones that go to the bottom. So we're putting that in like so. So most of the teeth are running this way and then those ones are running the other way. If we start looking then at some of the features on the scroll saw itself. So just down here, that's that one there. There's just a little recess in underneath. that one there, where the blade, it just slides in like so, and that just drops into there. To actually then, you know, to set up in terms of getting the blade in its operating position, there's another little caliper, little clamp there, and then that one there, that applies the tension, and you turn the machine on. Okay, so that's sort of how it sets up, but we'll explain there's a bit more to it than that, because you have to adjust the tension. So the piece at the back there, that adjusts the tension. And I know there's probably different ways, you know, different technical ways for how you should do it correctly. But what we find is that we've all got our own sort of personal preferences. So I know, for instance, that Dad, he doesn't put quite as much tension on the blade as I do. But to adjust the tension, there's this piece at the back, and you just rotate it the one way or the other, depending on whether you want more or less tension on the blades. So for me, yeah, that's about right. Just a little turn in there like so. This one, as we mentioned earlier, we've adapted, and that tightens the blade up like so. And then again, that one, for it to function, you have to push that button back for it to function correctly. If you don't do that, it sort of makes horrible noise and can give you a little bit of a start. But that's how you put the tension on. Now, another feature that it doesn't actually come with the Hegner itself, but you can buy as an extra. You've got this arm, that arm there, and that will actually sit on top of the wood, and it acts like a clamp, because one thing, if it catches the wood, the wood can jump about a little bit. Now that arm, I personally, I'm not that keen on it. I prefer to hold it myself, but I know that my brother, he finds that really useful. So for anyone sort of starting out, or if you're not that confident using the scroll saw, using the Hegner, that might be a useful addition for you to consider. So yeah, those are just a few different things. Underneath, then you've got the there's the degrees to adjust the table, and there's a little screw in underneath there for adjusting that. We always want it parallel for the work that we're doing, so we use a set square to adjust it. Different ways that you can use it. So you can see we've marked out this love spoon to use the scroll saw. We've drilled those holes, so you'll use those to do pilot holes. So the things that I'm going to cut out on here for you to see, we're going to cut around the outside there. So that's the first cut that I'm going to do. And then afterwards we're going to feed the blade through, and we're going to cut out these different bits here. So you'll see it's a really useful piece of kit. And we use it a lot for doing all sorts of different things. What it gives you in your love spoon, it gives you that light and shade. So when we come to do the carving, you've really got that, it gives it a bit more character, because you get that contrast. And contrast, you know, it really does make the carving look more interesting. So here we go. I'll demonstrate now how we carve, how we cut out around the outside of there. And all of this is getting the love spoon ready for hand carving. that's the sort of simple way to use the scroll saw. We've just finished off that shape around the top. And the nice thing with it, with that blade, it's a number 9. And as I said, it cuts in both ways. And it gives you a lovely finish straight off the scroll saw. Something like a bandsaw. You find yourself where you have to then go away and use the belt sanders to get all the saw lines out of. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but down sort of below there, it's been on the bandsaw, and I'll have to put that on the belt sander to take those lines out. And then up here is on the scroll saw, and that finish is a much nicer, higher quality finish. And so that helps us just reduce a little bit of the time. And all the time with what you're doing is you're getting the love spoon ready for hand carving. So what I will do now, I will demonstrate how we use the scroll saw then to cut out all of these pieces in between. So we start off with one of the larger ones here. You feed the blade through, just like so, into the pilot hole. Tighten it up again. Put the tension on. Put on the safety equipment again. And away you go. There you have it. You can see it's a lovely piece of equipment to work with. It is a skill process to sort of be able to use, but over time you'll build up, your ability with that. It's certainly a very important part of the process in terms of what we do in hand carving love spoons. It's a really useful piece of equipment. You can do things. It's not just love spoons that you can make with this. You can use it to do key rings. You can use it to do jigsaws. You can use it to cut out signs. You can use it to cut out all sorts of different things. So there's a lot of potential with it. This particular one, the Hegner, it's a really nice scroll saw to work with. And yeah, hopefully that'll give you a little idea for anybody who's just starting out with the Hegner. Hopefully it'll give you an idea of how to use it. Let's just recap and go through all of the different things then that we would recommend when starting to use a Hegner scroll saw. Now, as I mentioned, you've got over here to put in a new blade. There's a little attachment just on the side, and that tells you which direction, there's a little guide for which direction the teeth should be going in. If you use the same type of blade as ourselves, where you have the teeth running in two directions, it's the 6 teeth that are going the other way. Those are the ones that you have closest to the bottom. So they go in like so. You then slide your scroll saw blades into the little recess, the little holder in underneath, like so. You bring it down, and at this stage, something I didn't mention before, you check how far up this is running. So how far up the holder, the little piece that the blade goes into, you check how far up it's gone. Now, me and Dad, we have slight difference of opinion on how we adjust that. He comes a little bit higher up, which means there's a little bit less tension on the blades. The advantage of that is you will snap less blades, they will last longer. I prefer a little bit more tension on it, which unfortunately means I do tend to break more blades, but I prefer the way that cuts. So again, as always with these different things, it's a little bit of trial and error. I'm sure with that there's probably a correct amount of tension, but it comes down to personal preference. So we put that in like so. We've adjusted our tension at the back here. So we've adjusted how much tension we've got on the back. We then use this arm here to finish off, put in the full tension, because if you don't do that, the blade, you listen to the difference. That's when it's slack, so there's no proper tension on the blade. And when we apply the tension, and it's just an interesting little thing just to point out to you, as I adjust the tension, if I adjust the tension at the back, it's like tuning. Don't know if the microphone, I'm hoping the microphone has picked that up well. But you can actually hear it changing. The sound changes as you adjust the tension on the back. So that's what you do. You adjust that tension on the back. You make sure that is on so it's fully under tension, as opposed to released where there's no tension on it at all. We have the blower, so get that blower lined up so it blows the dust away so you can see the line clearly. This arm then, if you want to use that, you can adjust that and put that on top of the wood so it holds the wood down so it doesn't end up bouncing around, and you can hold it down instead of having to do that yourself. As I mentioned before, I'm not too keen on that. It doesn't really work for me, but my brother Matt, he does find that useful. Hopefully then there's some ideas there that will be useful to get you started. Don't forget, you want it secured to the floor. So whatever you've got in terms of a stand, bolt that to the floor and bolt the machine to the stand. So you've got as little vibration as possible. The Hegner scroll saw, and I know there's other good quality scroll saws out there, they're lovely machines to work with. We do enjoy working with this one. And it gives your work, whether you're making love spoons like ourselves or you're doing something like if you're making key rings or signs or clocks or even jigsaws. This is a really good machine for making jigsaws, something like that. It can add an extra dimension to your work because the gaps in your work give it light and shade, so you get that contrast. So it's a really good addition for adding another dimension to your wood carving. Hopefully that is all useful. If it is, put a like below. If you think it would be useful for anyone else, don't worry about sharing our video. It all helps us to grow the channel. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell because we put up regular updates to help you with your wood carving. And as always, we will be back again soon with more videos. Thank you all again for watching.